see if starting this week against what Urban Meyer called this week. Did you catch this, Claire? He said this Rutgers defense is the most improved defense in the country. He said that. I guess they would have to be
true because they had a lot of room for improvement. So it's possible that they can be the most improved defense in the country and still not be a very good defense.
For those people out there that think I know the ins and outs of every team and the personnel in the roster 1 through 100, I'm sorry, I have to disappoint. I don't know a whole lot about Rutgers personnel this year. I've yet to see them play. They opened with a very impressive showing at home against Washington, of course, a team that won the Pac-12 and made it to the college football playoff last year. This was a one-score game. It was a Rutgers lead in the second half. They finally succumbed to the higher level of talent in Washington, but they played very well in that game. They played well last week on the road against Nebraska, I guess, because, again, Nebraska's proving to be pretty awful, and maybe it was two of the worst teams in the Big Ten going at it, but Rutgers, you don't expect to stay within Nebraska typically, but they did in this one, 27-17. One of their wideouts had one of the more interesting catches that you will ever see. Don't know if you saw this, Claire. It was like caught behind his back, and he rolled over, and he kept it kind of between his legs, and he kept it off the ground, so it was a catch, so I can't describe it, so check that one out on YouTube.
You did a pretty good job.
Something like that.
Good job describing it. And that's the hard part. We don't actually really know what Rutgers is made of just quite yet because of the opponents that they've faced. What I will say about them getting a quick start on Washington, I think that's probably more significant, or one of the most significant things that we can look at when comparing them to Ohio State and what might actually happen this week. What the Buckeyes struggled with in the first 2, maybe even 3 games, we should say, is getting off to a fast start offensively. So what we did see them do is against UNLV is get a fast start, and it's something that they're going to have to do on the road against Rutgers if they want to build any kind of momentum like that.
I'm seeing some names that I'm familiar with. I'm checking out the Rutgers stats here. Kyle Boland's their starting quarterback, and I had forgotten about him. He started at Louisville, actually got some playing time at Louisville, was in the pre-Lamar Jackson era of Louisville starting quarterbacks and was kind of in that mishmash and had a few starts for Louisville. 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, not overly impressive there. Gus Edwards is their leading running back. He's a transfer from Miami. I've seen him many times with the Hurricanes, had meaningful playing time with the Canes. He's at 4.2 yards per carry. Their backup running back, Robert Martin, he's been with the program for a long time and has actually been a star running back earlier in his career before Edwards transferred. And yeah, Rutgers is definitely more competitive, but they've had a lot of space to try to up the ante and up their game in recent years to catch the likes of Ohio State and Michigan. I've got a great stat for you, Claire. Between Ohio State, Michigan State, and Penn State, the combined score against Rutgers was something in the range of 245-0 last year.
That does not shock me at all. With Ohio State, they put 50 on them 3 years in a row now.
Yeah, I think it was like 59-0 last year. Michigan's was 78-0.
Yikes.
And then even Michigan State having that awful team last year that won one game in the Big Ten, they beat them like 49-0. Yeah.
So with Chris Ash being defensively minded, it is a little surprising that that's happened. Obviously, he inherited a kind of a mess there, but we all know now how Urban feels about coaches inheriting a mess. However, it is an interesting dynamic with Chris Ash being a former co-defensive coordinator and Greg Schiano being a former head coach of Rutgers, and it should be some nostalgia on both sides of the ball. But like I mentioned, you would think that as a defensively minded coach, Chris Ash would have them in better order. But so far, that has not been the case.
Urban Meyer made the comment this week that Chris Ash had the 2 elements, and he noticed them right away, that you need to transition from assistant coach to head coach in big-time college football. And that's number 1, you can recruit. You just know how to recruit, connect with the players. You know how to make the sale and then close it. And then Urban didn't he didn't use those terms. Definitely didn't use those terms in terms of it being a sale. And then also just talked about understanding the big picture, that there are some tremendous assistant coaches out there that coach a position, but they're tunnel visioned. You have to understand the logistics and the broad picture topics to run a football program, and Chris Ash has it. A lot of work to do there in New Jersey, but he does have a recruiting base. Once you get past the Californias and Floridas, New Jersey is pretty high on the list of talent in high school football, so he's got it right there in his backyard to do something in the Big Ten East.